Hello everyone, welcome to Baker Street Tales. I'm aiming to reach 3,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and I believe we can achieve it together. Your support by subscribing would truly mean a lot to me. Now, let's dive into the stories. My neighbor thought he owned the street, so I taught him a lesson. I 36M live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, where most people are pretty laid back. It's the kind of place where you wave to your neighbors, borrow a cup of sugar, and maybe gossip over the fence. Everything was fine until Jerry 42 male moved in next door. From day one, I could tell Jerry had this absurd idea that the entire street belonged to him. At first, it was little things. He made snide comments about people parking too close to his driveway or how someone's garden wasn't up to neighborhood standards. But soon, things escalated. I remember the day he started putting cones in front of his house to claim the public parking spaces on the street. I couldn't believe it. If anyone parked there, even for 5 minutes, Jerry would lose his mind. I could hear him yelling from across the street, "You can't park here. This is my space." At that point, I'd had enough. I'm usually easygoing, but there's something about entitlement that just gets under my skin. I decided it was time to show Jerry he didn't own the road. One Saturday, I had a few friends over for a barbecue. When my buddy Sam parked in front of Jerry's house, I could already see Jerry's face turning red from my porch. Within minutes, there he was, pounding on my door, demanding Sam move his car. I calmly explained that it was a public street. Jerry wasn't having it, though. He threatened to tow Sam's car if it wasn't moved. I took a deep breath and smiled, thinking about how I would teach him a lesson. The next weekend, I hatched a plan. I rented a giant inflatable bouncy castle, one that was so massive it could have been the centerpiece of a carnival. I set it up right in front of Jerry's house, taking up 3 parking spaces. I can still picture the way it loomed over his yard. As kids from the neighborhood flocked to bounce around, I felt a rush of excitement. Parents gathered too, chatting and enjoying the sunny day while their kids laughed and played. I couldn't help but glance over at Jerry's house. I could practically see him fuming from the window. Eventually, I noticed him storming out of his house, arms flailing as he approached the bouncy castle. The look on his face was priceless. He began shouting about how it was illegal to set up such a thing in front of his house, claiming I was ruining the neighborhood. I simply waved at him and reminded him of the word public. I could see the frustration boiling over. And just like that, Jerry decided to call the cops. I watched him explain his situation, gesturing wildly as he talked. A few minutes later, 2 police officers arrived, and I couldn't help but smile as they approached me. I explained everything, knowing I hadn't broken any laws. When they turned to Jerry, I could see the look on his face as they gently let him know that there was nothing they could do. As long as I wasn't blocking traffic or creating a safety hazard, I was free to let the kids have their fun. Jerry was left standing there, completely defeated. I felt a sense of triumph as he marched back into his house, slamming the door behind him. From that day on, word spread through the neighborhood about Jerry's parking drama. People began parking in front of his house intentionally, just to mess with him. He never bothered anyone about parking again, and the peace returned to our neighborhood. Sometimes, the best way to deal with entitled people is to show them just how little control they actually have. And I will always remember the sight of that bouncy castle, a symbol of my victory over Jerry's ridiculousness.